Welcome everybody to the Fire Chat podcast. Today on the show, I have Mr. Evan Brown here joining me, longtime member of the Inland Empire Real Estate Club and of the Fire Center, and also my stepdad. So, welcome in, Evan.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I haven't done this with just you before.
I know Evan has been on the show before, but he was here with another guest as kind of a trifecta that we had here in the office. But for those of you that don't know who I am, I forgot to say at the beginning, my name is Rich Rice, your host. And today we are going to be talking about just financial independence through real estate. And I like to start things off like kind of casual, and then kind of jump into what. A little bit more maybe real estate topics, and then just whatever the conversation takes us. So, Evan, That's funny. I just had my mom in here.
Yeah, Friday.
And yesterday or the other day.
Yeah.
So, we were talking about printing companies and stuff like that. So, give us a quick background. I mean, I know you ran a printing press for years before you were in real estate. You've done some karate. Where do you want to start?
Oh boy, we'll just start with the printing, I guess.
Where did you first have the itch for real estate? Like at what stage in your?
Honestly, I was about 10, and the reason why is our family. This was my grandfather, grandmother, and my mom and dad, and a lot of cousins. They all helped develop a lot of strip malls in Orange County back in the late 70s. They started doing that. They had my grandfather's one that I guess really started it. They all pooled their money and started buying up land and building strip malls, or leasing land and building strip malls that you would go get where you get your haircut, etc.
That was in Orange County?
That was in Orange County. And I just saw that because they were getting like company cars, and then I was watching the family dynamics because, one family member, I have kids. I need a station wagon. I don't want this executive car. And then watching the stupid fighting and all the other stuff that was going on. But they did well for quite a while. And then the late 70s, early 80s, the 18% interest rates bankrupted them. It shut everything down. My parents had just got their money back like 6 months before because they wanted to buy a house. But almost every other family member, they lost their life savings. And
so, and you were just a kid back then.
I was
so
just
maybe
a kid
you don't know the particulars,
watching.
but like what part of like the interest rate skyrocketing like that bankrupted them? Was it the way that financing worked, or
the issue was it was a recession is the part is what it was. Is it just changed everything, and
so
then
their tenants all lose.
Well, they were building them. I don't know if they were keeping them. I don't know enough if they were keeping them at the time. I just know that they. As they were doing that, because I found out later more things about it, but mostly it was they were buying, developing them, and I just don't know if they kept them or and held them or what. I don't know if they were using how much of it was still leveraged. I just know that eventually the things were called due, and they were in trouble. And my grandfather did start again after that and was doing it again, but I don't think his heart was in it. So
Gotcha.
But anyway, that was the first part of it. And then I had an uncle. Everyone thought he was crazy because he also liked to drink a little, but he was a brilliant guy. And he, as I got older, kept talking about these like glory days stuff. Because I'm talking like 1977, 78. He had a car phone in his car. He had I think it was a Mercury Cougar or Lincoln Continental, and he had a car phone. Because I remember
people
playing with the buttons.
Had digital phones in their house at that point, let alone in a car.
Yeah, it was like it was probably one of those ham radio cars, ham radios where they had like an operator on Mount Wilson or a repeater, and you had to hit all these buttons, and they were putting car phones in the 70s. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. So, so he...
What was he into?
He was always a mechanic or a screw-up, depending upon who you ask in the family. But he, I just know he negotiated some of the deals, but I don't know all the different nuances of who was doing what.
Gotcha.
I do know he was communicated a lot with with the various attorneys. I don't know if he was dealing with contracts or not, but he shared some other stories with me later. And so he was telling me about things that how to buy property. You can even do it with no money down. He was touching on a lot of that, but I really didn't understand that because by then I was maybe 15. And so I was very interested in it. And then later on at 19, when I got married to my first wife, we were looking at how to buy a house, and I started getting into it then. And late night Carlton sheets, how to buy a house with no money down or none of your own money, and or use a couple $100. And I got into that for a while, and that's when we ended up buying our house at like 21. But other than that, I just got busy just trying to survive, pay the bills, raise kids. And that just took everything just to stay afloat.
Yeah. So you bought 19. You bought your first house. 20?
I was like 2021.
2021. And then how many kids did you have at that point?
One.
And then
stay at home mom, and I
you
worked.
had four kids.
Yep.
And then you. How old were you when would that have been Aislinn was the youngest?
Yeah, Aislinn was youngest, and she was born in '96, so I was about 28.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just thinking, not unrelated. You know, I'm obviously having a kid in October, and I'm much older than 28. So
that was my last child.
Yeah, it was, I'm doing the opposite of what most people do, but
it's a lot more common to wait. To wait these days.
I feel a lot more stable, but. Than I did at 28 or 21 for sure.
Right. If we waited till we were stable, never would have had kids.
Yeah. Well, only stable in some areas.
Right. We'll go with that. Yeah.
So right on. So and then you guys bought your first house. You were 21, and then had a few more kids. Mm-hmm. And then when in there did you start working at Griffiths?
Well,
the printing company.
What happened is. I'll say this. We bought that house in 1990, and by, I think, 1992, there was that other recession, early recession. At least they were shutting down.
So they pulled the base out?
Yeah, they pulled the base out, which was 3 miles down the road. So I watched houses that were 75, 80, 100,000. This is San Bernardino in the 90s. To be worth like $40,000 because of that. And I remember then, maybe I could get my boss at the time. Lend me some money and we could buy that house for $50,000 across the street. And
you bought yours for how much
just
again?
Didn't know, huh?
You had bought yours
$75,000, and they dropped almost a third in 2 years because former military neighborhood and all that, and they all moved away anyway. But no, I
just a quick tangent lesson, or what? Because that house got appraised recently, or
it did. It did several years ago as a distressed house, and it was like 212 or something like that. But now
you guys just finished a remodel. So what do you think it's worth now?
It was an addition, yes. If it was remodeled, it'd be 450.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
and my daughter owns it
forever.
Yeah. Well, our oldest daughter bought it from her mom's estate when she lost her mom. She bought it out from her brothers and sisters, and lives there. And then just added the 500 square feet to it because it was a small house.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, so keep going. Sorry.
So no, we in 1989. What happened is I right out of high school I became a karate instructor, and I did that for a couple of years. And I was 18, having fun, although getting married, starting having kids, and I needed to get a real job at the time because I needed health insurance because my wife was pregnant, and so I got a job at the Boy Scouts, and they taught me how to print. Or they taught me how to run a machine, and we had to figure the rest out. So, and we ended up buying, that was like in 1988, and we ended up buying a house in San Bernardino, but my job was in Costa Mesa. So I started doing a 66-mile commute one way. And I only did that long enough to get a job closer, and closer was 50 miles, and that was a printing company. And
10 miles in SoCal,
Yeah, 10 miles. Hey, that was like a 40-minute savings. Anyway, so I started that just running a machine. Didn't really know a lot, again, about printing, but the owner was a fantastic business guy. He knew about clients and customer service and how to run a business, and I stayed there 25 years ultimately. And after about 4 years, I became the production manager. And later that was a little bit more than that. It was almost production manager, part office manager, to a degree, or operations manager almost. We started getting promotions without the pay, instead of getting raises. you start adding on because, they kept shifting things, So anyway, but I did that and we learned a lot about people management, time and money. And so that was just different things. That was just a great learning place. And that's also where I met your mom.
Yep.
So life changer for that,
Yeah, for sure. So obviously you were, I know there's a lot of history and a lot of changes that all happened like in the printing company over 25 years,
Yep.
And I know you were interested in real estate. Was there like a certain point where you were just like, all right, I'm doing it?
Yes. Well, there's a couple things. I had done in the 90s, I had done one of the network marketing companies because it just fit. And believe it or not, a lot of them have great sales programs, even if whether it's a good thing or not, they teach you sales, and sometimes poorly, sometimes well. But a lot of them do have good training programs, and that's where I first came across Robert Kiyosaki. And Robert Kiyosaki talking about this home to work thing, and then working for yourself. And then talking about your house is not an asset, it's a liability. And you're like, what? So being around that and being around other business owners, that really was an eye-opener. So as I had the job, I was starting to look, how do I get out of this job thing? And I was looking at the network marketing thing, but then I real estate was always right here, always. Yeah. Because I remember my parents, my grandparents and the family, and then seeing a couple friends over the years. They did well. They had a few rental houses, and then Robert Kiyosaki was talking about the cash flow and passive income. And then I went back to the Carlton sheets way back when, and so that was there. It was. I guess I was percolating for many years, and when things happened, 2008 was really the catalyst. Watching, we saw everything go with the real estate business, the market, everyone, flipping houses and buying real estate. And I had friends that were doing it, and we were just busy living life, riding motorcycles, getting engaged, getting married. And while we were doing that, it kept happening. So when the crash happened and that started going on, we then were like, I started looking around at rental property in Nebraska and Iowa because I had family there, and I knew the pricing was lower. But as the market here was really collapsing, it was doing the same there, and it kind of went, wait, what if I wonder what the prices are looking like out in San Bernardino County again? And they had fallen, and we were able to get in and buy some REOs, really low price. And bought a single family for $65,000. They'd rent for $995. So you needed like 10 grand down, and you could buy a house with a bank loan, you with an agent, and go do that. And your mortgage was $400 a month. Well, kind of hard to miss on that. So we did that. But as soon as we bought the first one, we got pay cuts at work, and the company was retracting a little bit. And then what they did was they cut our hours, they cut our hourly rate 10%, and then they banned overtime for a while, and we lost a lot of money.
Yeah,
and
you
all
guys
of a
both
sudden,
worked at the same place.
we
so
both
it was
worked at the
double.
same place. Yep. And it turned out we were worried about losing everything, actually, because at the time, we had, in 2008, when we were looking around at rentals, in the middle of that, your mom saw the house we live in today. She's like, while I'm looking for a rental to grow and make more money and better the family, she's looks at, sees this house up the road by a condo that we could get for less than the condo, and nice home and everything. And she goes, well, let's buy this. So we went and bought a liability, right? But it was good that we did. It was a well-placed move. But we bought this house, and then we moved out of our condo. And our condo, by the
You
way,
got plenty of equity now that she'll never let you touch.
right,
So.
right. Yeah. So in 2005, we paid $300,000 for a condo that in 2009 was worth $140,000. But by now we had a house, and then we became an accidental landlord at that time, and we ended up having $1,000 a month loss on that condo every month.
Yeah.
Because we could only rent it for $1,250, and our payment was $2, or $21. Whatever
Yeah,
it
so
was.
you had to dig yourself out of. I mean, before you could even start really,
Fine.
cash flowing positively,
Right.
you had to, $1,000 negative carry that you
Right.
had to overcome first. And this is back when, I mean, you're just getting started. You didn't know, you didn't know even a quarter probably of what you know now, and
Nope.
you didn't have exchangers to go to.
Nope. No fire center, no IRIC, no local RIA. I wasn't going to them. Didn't know about them. There wasn't very many either. No, that was an interesting time. Remember, we bought the house and said, "Oh, we'll be able to rent the condo out." And it turned out that there were other things going on with my ex-wife and tax credits that were going on. So I actually was like, I can afford the $1,000 a month loss at that time in our lives until that pay cut. And then we met with an attorney talking about a loan mod for the condo. And then we talked to our tax people about turning our condo over, just giving it back to the bank. Problem is when we were that far along thinking about it, we now hadn't lived there. And they were not forgiving. If you were a homeowner and you were upside down in your house and you owed $500,000 in your house, it was worth $3 million, and you gave it back to the bank, the IRS up until that time would say, fine, but you have a $200,000 gift from the bank. They forgave that $200,000. Now you owe $60,000 or whatever it was to the IRS. Yeah. And so Congress didn't make a law, didn't pass an exemption for so many years. I actually don't even know if that's still going on.
And by the time that you probably figured it out by that point.
Well, that was if you were a homeowner, but if you weren't there and you were a landlord and you're now an investor, no exemption.
Jeez.
And so it was going to cost us so our attorney said your contract reads, make this payment, sell the house, or give it back. That's what your contract says when you buy a house. He goes, give it back, but talk to your tax guy. And our tax guy said, fine, but you're going to owe $60,000 anyway. And if you pay the IRS, it's going to be $800 a month or $700 a month for 5 years.
Yeah.
Or I could pay $1,000 and keep it. So I kept it.
Yeah.
By the way, and today we didn't make one dime on that condo until about a year and a half ago that we started positive cash flow.
Yeah.
Because then your brother moved in and paid what our payment was later on.
And that was what your tenants at the time, wasn't that about what they were paying?
Well, yeah, no, it was that part was the same. Because what happens,
but then everything skyrocketed.
we did get a loan mod eventually, and it changed some things, and we got about an $800 a month savings. What it did is it put they took the loan, the $300,000 that we owned or whatever, and what it did is it put it into a first and a second, and the second became, it's zero interest and it sits there. We just looked at this the other day. It's $100,000 that sits there. So now we're making a mortgage payment on the first $200,000. So our payment went from $2,000 to like $1,200, and so all of a sudden we were doing fine on that. We could now cash flow, and so we then rented it out to somebody. Sorry, let me rephrase that. It saved us $800 a month, but when we had a new tenant in, the market rents were like $1,700, and we could rent it for like $1,700.
Yeah.
Well, we could rent it for 17, and I think we were all in at like 16. So we basically still didn't make any money for several years. And that's when your brother wanted to talk about doing that. And the rents were still there.
Yeah.
They shot up after he moved in, but then we held it.
Yeah.
So
so let me back up for a
Go
second,
ahead.
because I think this is a really good point of, and I love when you tell this story, because it's like a lesson, on So you bought it. How much was it when you bought it?
$302,000.
So yeah, 300, we'll call it 300. Okay. How, and your payment was?
All right, the payment was like $1,800, and then there was a 200 something HOA.
Okay.
That
All
was,
so
and that was everything.
let me exclude that for a second. So 300,000 you bought it at. You bought it as a primary originally. So
Right.
you weren't, but
We didn't care about the rent numbers.
then you
'cause-
bought another primary
Yes.
and you rented it out.
Right.
And at that time you were losing $1,000 a month on it.
Right, because we rented
far
out for
as cash flow.
$1,250 a month, and we were about 21 with everything.
Yeah. So you were losing. So you went from buying 300, and then when you rented it out, how much was it worth then?
When we when we first rented it out, it was worth like $360. It had shot
But after
up.
it crashed. Sorry. After it crashed.
But in 2008 when it was you know what? Actually,
Because when you bought the other house up the street,
yeah,
it
it had already
for
crashed.
less.
No, you're right. It had already crashed. It was on its way to 145,000, so it was
so
somewhere
half.
low.
So 300. Then when you bought it, only a few years later, went to 150. You're down $1,000 a month now, and then that was 2000.
That was 2008, 2009.
2008. So let's say about 10. Probably could have cash flowed a little bit earlier if you were renting it to family. But let's say for now, so you bought it 3, went down to 150. You got a negative $1,000 a month carry, and you held it. Like you figured it out. You came all the way back up 15 years later to now you're cash flowing how much?
$950 a month.
So you've completely reversed it.
Yes.
You've made up not only, that's almost $2,000 a month, and that's how much the rents have increased and everything.
Right.
And you obviously you did the loan mod, so your
the loan mod's still in place.
Was, your debt reduced. You'd reduced your debt,
right.
But you were able to go from $1,000 negative carry to almost $1,000 cash flow.
Right.
And it's worth how much now?
It's not 500 yet, but it's getting there.
Pretty close.
Yeah, 480 or something like that.
I mean, that doesn't, let's say if you would have bought this thing in Nebraska or Kansas, what do you think you would have? Do you remember what they were? How much they were?
Yeah, they were between a single family. We were anywhere from 50 to 150. You can get a brand new home for like. Well, let me put that brand new home aside. We were seeing them between 50 and 130 for either a 2-bedroom, 1-bath to a nice small 3-2 in the area. And the issue we noticed is that the taxes were all over the place from county to county. And
what do you think that wouldn't? I mean, maybe it didn't crash as hard, but I don't think it would have.
It did not. They did not.
They're probably worth around maybe 2.
Well, you're right.
Right. I don't know, but it's just just a exercise, I guess, in perseverance,
right?
And longevity and appreciation and figuring it out, and not everybody is able to, that $1,000 a month carry. Not everybody could have made that work,
right.
But you were able to. I think that's a cool story that you went from, those numbers, and now you still have it. Now it's got equity. And
it's in a great area.
It's a great, fantastic area, Corona. Which wasn't when you bought it.
Nope. It's just gotten better.
It's definitely come up. It's centrally located, close. It's got a good location, and that's just really cool. That's really cool because I know for so many years we were all just like, sell that stupid thing, You
at least sell it and get out from underneath it. But no, it was again. It worked that way. Either way, we were going to pay. I'd rather, at least if I keep it, I can turn it into something in the future. If I pay the government, I just wasn't going to pay it and give it. No, it was just that was salt on the wound.
Yeah. And what's the lesson there? That rents always go up.
Rents eventually always go up.
Are always going up, especially in California.
Even if they dip a little, they'll keep going.
And appreciation in California.
Appreciation eventually goes up.
I'm sure there's parts of California that that take a hit every once in a while, and it's not a guaranteed thing, obviously. But
no,
I think that's also that it's a money supply thing too, right? I mean, they're always inflating the money supply, so
it's
your
not
dollar's always worth less, not more.
Right.
So
right. Well, as you know, with that, it just
I don't think they're changing that anytime soon.
No, I think that's going to continue, right? Yeah. So anyway, with that, it's just I just, for all the reasons, chose to keep it because they were just nothing but one not great decision, or it was like two bad decisions. No matter what I was going to do, we were going to pay. But if we keep it, we could at least handle that and maybe one day do it. So something I learned later was it's not really a loss until you sell. And had I forced the sale just to get rid of it, it would have been a loss. But now it's one of the nicer properties we have in a great area. It's worth a lot. And we've paid that loan way down. And you know what? So yeah, sometimes just doing nothing and nurturing it and let time and compounding interest, compounding appreciation, and then paying down that interest. You know what? It pays off in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, right on. I think, again, I like to jump around and this is the Financial Independence Through Real Estate podcast. We've, talked about real estate a little bit. Because you're probably at the point where you probably don't need to be as active as you are. So is it, or at least in business, was financial independence kind of a thing for you, or was it you always intended on working still, or how do you define that freedom? Because I know you like to work, you like to be busy, and I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but it seems to me you do. You enjoy what you do. So, what is that? Because I know that wasn't always it was your goal, but I don't want to keep putting words in your mouth. So give me what was your goal on financial independence wise, and have you hit it? And do you want to keep? What do you want to do with it?
I'll tell you. I still do this. I still confuse the word busy and productive. There's a huge difference. And other times they disguise each other. And I do struggle with that. You know what? My main goal for years became to get out of my job, the JOB. They'd ask, Evan, how long have you worked here? And I'd say only since they threatened to fire me. Haha. But no, the reality is that was one of the biggest things. I just wanted to not have to answer to a boss at the time, because while we had a great boss that taught us a lot about things, we were not. It was his company. I watched him. He bought a building that we then paid rent on, the printing company, et cetera. And later when the printing company went south, years after we left, the family owns that building today. I think they paid like $2.1 million for that building, and it's got to be worth $10 to $15 million now. And I know they're pushing almost six figures a month in rent, and it's paid for. I actually drove by it the other day. I don't begrudge them in any. Yeah, I don't begrudge them in any way. They did it right, but seeing that was like, we got to do it. We have to do that. We're making them rich, and that was the agreement. And I was glad when I was there. So when he started looking at retiring more, we started we got to get out of this. So that's where my head was at on that. And so as far as the my main thing was just get out of the job so we could at least decide what we're going to do. And we had decided that we had done, for us, we had started buying some other rentals, as we said back in like 2009, had to make up for the $1,000 hit from the condo. But real quick, I went to a seminar and just learned about partnerships and raising money through IRAs. How you can partner with an IRA. So I partnered with a friend, and we bought some rentals. And one of the things with it is we were doing a lot of things, and we're busy again, and actually had cash flow, but it wasn't profit. And we were 2010, 11, 12. Property appreciations were not like this. It was not doing this. It was still pretty flat. You can buy 3 units for $60,000, $80,000 if they needed work here in SoCal, right? So, and then fix them up. You'd cash flow, but it just wasn't really great at the time. If you could sit on those and wait as the rent would go up, you'd be fine. But we were just not in the right areas, and there was all this other stuff going on. But my point is I kept working while I had that job. I was working on the side. anytime I wasn't working at the JOB, I was working and collecting rents, looking at property, driving I don't say driving for dollars, but driving for dollars, didn't know that I was doing that. And then
Yeah, it's funny you're doing some of these things before there was a term.
Yeah, just didn't know. I'm just looking around, go, oh, I like that, and then looking at the MLS and stuff, right? So we was doing a lot of it, and I just realized that we're making a little bit more money, and then I could work a little bit less. And eventually, I realized instead of working 60 hours a week at the job, because later we could work hours again, but I never got that raise back. I worked 7 years without a raise, and I just fueled how angry I was about it into our business, and that's what I was doing. And I was like, oh, fine. But they allowed me the flexibility to take time off if I needed. So I used that to my advantage, at the same time making sure we got the job done. And it turned out that as I was seeing things going on, changing the printing world, and seeing that real estate, everything I saw was more and more that was the answer. So what we started to do is we kept going down that route, buying more and more rentals. And we had about 35 doors at the time, 32 doors, but still not cash flowing really well, not profiting really well. And finally, your mom had become an agent and was working on the side too, just here and there, doing a deal or two. And it turned out that we still had jobs. And then I kind of looked at her and realized, hey, we have some money in the bank now. Kind of snuck up on us. Said, now, if we could work one more year and we can get out of our jobs. Once we saw that, 3 weeks later, I gave my notice after a fight at work about something. And that's when it was realized I lost the deal because I got stuck at work, and I figured I lost like $30,000 wholesale deal.
Wow.
And that was like half my year's salary. And I realized it was costing me, and I needed to free up time, and the time was the job. So I left, and your mom left 4 months later. And we jumped ahead, sold a lot of those other properties that we were really busy with, but they weren't doing really well, if you know what I mean. And sold them, kept a few, and started flipping and wholesaling, and really got into that for a couple of years.
The ones that you sold, were those what was you said the residents were paying, or what was the issues?
It was in Old Town Victorville, and there were a lot of 3 units. We had a 5 unit, and so the mindset of the area, plus it was a very lower social economic area, and so we did have a lot of turnover, and the rents were low at the time. They didn't start shooting up for about 5 more years.
Yeah, so you weren't really. The vacancies and stuff were just killing your cash flow, or
they were in the turnover, and this is stuff with bullet holes, and we had a couple things. We had some crazy stuff, so we got rid of that, and it freed up a lot of time. Yeah. And then we just spent some years flipping and wholesaling, and then we got you out here. Brought you in for Phoenix, and started doing deals together, and you saw the things that you brought in that we lacked, which was amazing, and started doing a lot more deals. The numbers went up from doing a handful, 2, 3, 4, 5 a year, to 30 something between all the type of deals we do, and that's a lot for us. Okay, that's fine. Those of you who do 100 a year,
I don't know how you do it. But good for you.
Go, good for you. Yeah. So
I was just telling somebody that the other day that we were, there was one point we did like 16 mobile homes, and then like, I don't know what it was, like 13, 14 single family flips in 1 year, and I was like, it was a great year, but
no,
I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. A little more wholesaling, partnering, doing some deals. So my main point with a lot of that was, as we did it, we freed up some time, and then I had a lot more time just flipping and wholesaling with a few rentals. The issue was, if we stopped, we were in trouble. That was the biggest thing, and that's where Mick Blackwell, bless his heart, all right, he's not with us anymore, was really starting to beat in our head, because we got to know him a little bit, and started saying about, it's rentals, you flippers and wholesalers, you just have a job. Yeah, and yes, you can turn it into a business to where you watch your business and have everyone else do everything, and yes, you can do that, and then be an entrepreneur or a capitalist, in that sense, right? But with that, it was something we weren't doing that. But so when it came out to it, he was just like, you got to get in that cash flow again. And it brought back to Kiyosaki, et cetera.
Yep.
So we started buying more. You remember, we started buying and holding more rentals for a period of about 3 years. So when COVID hit, we were doing okay on that. And then COVID, those years turned out to be really good anyway. So, so with all that, it got us to where now, if you're asking about where, sorry for the long-winded answer, but this is where editing can be really good. The main thing is that right now we had John Schaub out here, who you know was a kudos to you to get him out here. John Schaub, an author and longtime business owner and housing provider, and a legend in his market. He when he said something recently about, guys, every year take your worst property, sell one or two of them, and self-clean. It self-improves your property if you constantly do that. And I went, okay, that's something that I just want to hold them. The ones that I want to keep, and it's almost like, damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead, keep it. And I had breakfast with Mike Ken too, like a week ago, and I asked him about this, and he said sometimes you get a property that you have, and you're like, everything. Maybe it's a great. It could be a great location. It could be just a good location, great location. You go, I have good tenant, et cetera. And after a couple of years, you're like seeing this revolving door of tenants or problems. You're like, why? It makes no sense. Something here. You just got to get rid of that one. It's like sell it to a friend, sell it to someone, get rid of it. So you're not just constantly doing it. I think he had like 8 tenants in 6 years or something, and that was a lot for him. And he said no, and got rid of a property. And that kind of 1-2 punch between John and Mike, I started thinking, all right, which properties, we'd already started doing some reports, but which properties are dogs? Which ones are really dogs that just need to get rid of and go find something better?
Yeah, it's funny because I literally just brought this up to Caitlin like a couple of days ago where, I said, I think I want to sell these 2 properties. And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah, the tenants in there right now, if they move out, I don't think I get that rent again, or at least, and I'm not even really cash flowing on it because I had so much money into that property to begin with that, the $300-400 a month that I really make isn't really true cash flow at the end of the day, because it was so much into it and there's things that I know I'm going to have to fix eventually that are going to be expensive. And, so I'm just like, maybe I don't know. And then another one that's just big and heavy maintenance and, I'm not going to be able to do, the expansion that I thought I was going to be able to do on it. And because I thought I was going to be able to turn it into a 3-unit, and because it's on septic, I'm probably not going to be able to do that. I haven't gotten that final answer yet, but
because of the septic.
But if I could legalize what's there and get the value out of it, and I've already taken money against it to finance something else, so it would clear that out, so I was looking at 2 of these properties going, which I never thought I would ever sell these 2, but now other ones came along and, and like you said, they have a way of weeding themselves out. So
right. Well, you can be stronger. You can be stronger with something even with less. Like when John was talking about that it got in his head somewhere that he wanted 100 properties and he was at like 91. Right. And then something like 90, 91 of them. He was like, why do I want 100? Where did that come from? you only need 20, 25. Right. Yeah. So, but he was able to use those extras that he had and sell some to either constantly improve the ones he had, either by putting money into them or selling these and then paying those off. And after a while, he just made a better and better product again. So it was like, yeah, if we can take a couple properties. I just had that with a duplex where I was getting, I had a lower rent because I didn't completely redo the unit when someone moved out, and I was struggling getting the rent. And I went, all right, rental market's changing, it's slowing down, which I saw that, heard that, but I've never had lower rents before
from what your last
17 years. Was? Yeah, I did. I dropped it 150 a month, but hits the value. Yeah,
I did. I didn't lose. I thought I was going to be able to I thought I was going to be able to bring in somebody that was, a little bit higher than what the last guy had been at for 2 or 3 years. And I ended up dropping her down to what he was paying, before, and the new person's paying the same thing. So I was hoping to get a good, $100 or $200 more, but I just had to end up having to drop it back and just said, oh well. So at least I didn't have to, at least I didn't have to drop it. But
we
it is changing a little bit, especially because we're in those, for the most part, we're in those kind of some of those ancillary markets that aren't, main, it's not like we have a ton of rentals in Riverside.
Right.
So I have seen, that they do seem, it depends, sometimes it's weird. Like, I feel like sometimes I feel like, oh, well, the rents are, it's kind of adjusting. It's been a little slow. And then right when I'm about to drop it, or, I just dropped one, then I get, 50 inquiries on another one or something like that. And I'm like, it's weird. It's kind of like I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah. Well, we've noticed it. So our thinking is, and then I just got notice of one property that I've had one tenant the entire time I've owned it, only for a few years, but we own several on that street. And this was my least favorite house, so to speak. And we don't make much cash flow wise, but it's kind of where we parked money, got some appreciation, and we're flipping a house across the street as well. And I'm thinking now that we're going to just sell this duplex and this house. And then when we do that, our actual, because the duplex was being a dog, really was just an issue, had an eviction, et cetera, and some other stuff. Even though it should cash flow pretty well, I'm looking to sell these two. And when I do that and then pay some things off, I put some money in the bank and pay off a particular credit line. And our income, if we do this, will go up about $500 a month if I pay that off and do that and put money in the bank. So 2 less properties, 3 less doors, 6 figures in the bank, and pay off a credit line and go up $500 a month with a little less work. As we just bought another rental, not counting that. So you know what? I can get rid of 2 and keep 1 because that one's better than the other.
And you're
2.
hitting on a very good point. I mean, it was one of the things I was talking about on was that last Wednesday, and then I want to cover in the goals workshop I'm going to do in a month or so. Was that you don't always need more, right? Like you don't, and that's kind of what pretty much what John was alluding to. Yeah, exactly. Like you don't always need more and more and more. More houses, more properties, more units, more tenants, whatever. Is like what you just said. We've been looking at it too on our own. Is like right now, I have about $20,000 or so left on the Jeep, but I have a $750 a month payment on it.
And even though you have rentals that pay for that, still it's $700.
It's $750 a month, and I'm not going to be able to get into another house. Most likely, obviously there's other creative things, but for the most part, if I'm going to go buy and put money down on the more traditional way, I guess, I'm not going to get into anything else that's going to be cash flowing $750 a month for probably $20,000.
Right.
So at this point,
$20,000 to get $750.
I might as well pay off the Jeep.
Right.
If if it all came to push or shove, I don't need to go. So it's a like you said, it's you look at the properties that you own, look at the ones that are, if they're not performing. And they haven't been
as well as you want, right?
Get rid of them.
Or even if they are performing, if they're just management intensive, get rid of it.
Yeah, like I have one property that cash flows far more than any of the other ones, and that one, you better believe there's a little bit of a scratch on the paint, and I'm like,
yes. Yeah.
That one is very, I mean, I maintain all my properties, but that one especially, like if there's even a little hint of something wrong, I'm like, let's go.
Right. Well, so, one of the things going back to the financial independence for real estate is every year we also take a mantra, and this year was my mantra for the year was peace of mind, more peace of mind. Yep. But last year, we had a section of about 4 months there. It was the roughest time in real estate that I've ever had. It was just stressful.
I remember.
Doing some deals with some people that were having to move people and helping homeowners, but maybe one
one
roommate of theirs was mentally ill, and it was just
challenging transactions there.
it kicked my ass. I really feel, and I don't throw this around lightly, like I have PTSD from that. It's if there was ever a case in my life for it, that made it. It was that bad. It was some crazy stuff. But we did everything right and everything. Still, it was just beat us up. And so we've been thinking a lot and looking. And John brought up some stuff. And as we get older, 20 years older than you, we start seeing our friends pass away, and it's like, why am I doing this just to do this? And so I'm enjoying helping others make money. I'm enjoying that part of like teaching and helping and partnering with people and watching them get their first deal. Like some of our friends, like the two guys that just did that mobile home deal, and they made like 40 grand or something on their first deal together. That was 45, something like that. And that was a lot of joy and excitement. And the thing with that is that looking at how many deals are we doing? Why are we doing it? Did we need to do it? Let's do better deals. Let's do less and do less deals. Matter of fact, you and I, some years ago, I think you ran numbers on what our average deal was. And from one year to the next, we did half as many deals, but we doubled the value of the deals, and we made the same amount of money. That was a really good year. It's like, and then the next year we're back to that lower number, but I think you've done some less deals. And it was like, all right, there's a certain amount of how hard to work for the same dollar.
Yeah.
And I think it was, a friend of ours mentioned recently that what he likes to do is challenge himself and make sure he tries to have his flipping wholesaling business outperform his rentals, because he has some good rentals. And he has a competition, even though he's kind of half retired, he still likes to every year go, if I can outperform my rentals, because they do that well. And he turns it into a game. And I went, that sounds kind of fun. That could be interesting. Yeah. But then I was like, what? I want more challenge? No. Yeah. So, but right now we're in the middle of, we've got 2 flips going on and 2 actual just straight out flips. We've got 3 mobile home like Lonnie deals we're doing that looks like I just found 2 buyers for 2 of those that nice. I just wanted to get out of. They just one applied yesterday and one. Actually, 2 of them. You were
going to finance them, but now they're just going to buy them?
No, I'm still financing them. Oh. I'm just not, we bring the financing through one of our friends, investors, et cetera.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So if I can get rid of those 2 and just have, and then the 2 flips that one of them is one of ours, and then one of them is with our buddy there in Covina. And then we have like several rehabs, several evictions going on, like 2. Well, one's leaving and one's an eviction that are rentals we're going to keep that we got to redo those.
Jeez. Yeah.
And then on top of that,
I didn't know you had an eviction going on.
Yeah, the one in San Bernardino. Our first house in San Bernardino, we paid $65,000 for. 11-year tenant, we had to do an eviction.
Really?
11 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I know which one you're talking about. Right, we don't have to talk about
we don't have to. But the rent on that is $1,400, and it's going to go to about 21.
Wanting to,
right?
Do is the one you might build in the backyard.
Yeah, I want to build or do something, but then I go, well, I could just fix it up and rent it for $800 more. Maybe we do that. But I didn't want to change the tenant. They just got something changed in their life, and they stopped paying, and then tried to pay. It was just bad. And moving people in and multiple people and 5 dogs. It became it was just a problem.
Yep.
So, so anyway, we're cleaning all that up to try to do less deals. Not going to really do any of the mobile home Lonnie deals anymore, other than maybe if we get one back, and just focus in on the flip and the wholesale. Occasionally, as they come in, partner with some people, and then get rid of a couple of rentals and improve what we got, so we can go enjoy our time. We did just recently buy that an RV to go enjoy. And we got to get through the next month, I think, with your mom with some of her listings or so. Yeah. And that's our plan is actively, purposely going through with attention now to try to have that balance and peace of mind. But we got to just get through this hump and then stick to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I think that's the hardest part is the sticking to it, right? Like because I know we sat down and had this conversation years ago of saying no to some of this stuff. And even, my mom and I were talking about it, Angela and I were talking about it, a little bit when she was in here on just that she started to say no to some of these listings and some of these buyers, and, where it's like to level, kind of going back to what we were just talking about too, like to level up, you need to be able to say no to certain things, and you don't have to vacuum up everything that comes at you.
Right. And it could be an okay deal too.
Yeah.
You just like, it's just not for me. Someone called me about something and I was like, that sounds, I think there's something there. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to do a little adjusting with it. It's a reverse mortgage issue. And I said, call Jim. And they did. And Jim's going to go look at it like this week. I was just like.
Was it Diane?
Yeah.
She called me when I was out of town, and my phone didn't ever give me the voicemail.
Yeah.
And I finally called her back. She's like, "Yeah, I talked to Evan and Jim," and I was like, "Perfect."
Yeah. And it's
that's why everyone's here.
Right. So. Right. And so we're going to do that. So
cool.
And by the other thing I didn't mention is that we're doing a lot of these probate deals, and a lot of them reverse mortgage, and we had to stop an auction. What day is it? Today was the last day to stop an auction. We did get stopped with one day to spare, just as an error showed up, and just as with an error that showed up, we hired an attorney, open a probate, and we're tracking down an heir to buy their rights, and trying to save what equity there was. And anyway, we're doing some of these other more. There's more instead of just buying it from a seller and fix and flip a house. A lot of them have title issues or probate issues, and they're longer deals.
Yeah,
filing a Hexstad petition. We have several of these probate deals going on as well that I just forgot about, and it's like, how many do you know?
Yeah, I feel it. I mean, there's been a few. There's been more than a few actually leads, coming that we've been working on this year that Caitlin and I were working on, that we just, we made the offer. We tried to work with the people, and some of them just, they weren't ready, or, and then other ones were just, we probably could have made it work, but it just, looking at the dollar amount that we would have made and what they want, we were just so far apart on some of them. And then other ones where it was like, it just, like, there was one that had these people had built a house, and then there was an old house on the same lot, and they had combined, it was separate lots, and they combined all of them, and then they deactivated basically the original house, and it's still there, but it was a wreck. And we were like, well, we could split it up, and we were like trying to like force the numbers to like make sense to do it. And at the end of the day, we were just like, we're just make them the offer that makes sense, that we could tear the old house down and fix it up and fix up the newer one, clean it up and resell. Cause it's just like taking a year to split the lots and rebuild the other one and blah, 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 which, it was just like, forget it.
Yeah. And if you're doing one deal or two, maybe you take that on, right? One or two deals. And, but when you're doing a bunch, it's like, no. And if you can't wholesale it to someone, if it's not one of the situations, it's not there for whatever reason, sometimes, you just have to say no, and that's okay. And again, it's the value of your time as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I know we've talked about it, some of the other members in Farah, and they've laughed sometimes of like, if I don't think we're going to make X on, especially, I mean, this is if people are bringing other deals to me or us, and, like, it's got to be at a certain, especially to split, if we're talking splitting a profit, kind of thing, like, it's got to be at a certain, threshold of where, like, somebody threw up an exchangers the other day, a house in Redlands, and it was like a 1.1 ARV and a $650,000 purchase. And, one of the other members leaned over to me and was like, I got the cash, like, we could do this. And I showed him the numbers, and it was like, we could each, maybe if we're right and we're dead on, everything goes perfectly, we'd each make like 40. And I'm like, that's just not, and it's not enough. I mean, we could be off by 40, and then we're only making 20, at that point. And for a 6-month project, like that's just not enough there, And
it's one thing aiming for, we're going to make 200, and then you only made 40.
Yeah, that's
But
fine.
at least it's like, hey, we made something. Don't aim for 40.
Yeah, if you aim for 40, you're gonna, be in most likely. I mean, these are $1 million price points. If it was up in the mountains or like a $200,000-$300,000 house, or it was a trailer and a mobile home in Victorville or something, like all day.
Right. Goes out to how much you risk for
40.
Right. We just lost out on a deal that actually was going to be a wholesale deal, and we were going to make some pretty good money. And just a way that all came together at the end just fell apart. I blew it. There's just no other way to. I just know I did. And I could have just said and made an offer a little different and made half, which still would have been really good. I'd have been very happy. But I was kind of like, I was busy and doing a lot of other things. It was right in front of me, made my offer. Everything's been good, been working on it for a while. And I should have just gone with my best offer up front. And I didn't, because I used to always just go, always my best, strongest offer, and that's it, no games. But on the way the nature of this one for so long, I was able to just keep, raise the offer from another one.
It took a while.
And it took a while, and they weren't ready to sell. It was just constant. So I was like, okay, now they're ready to sell, and I still pulled back, and it cost me the deal. And I'm driving by that now as I see the change going over there, and I just wanted to slap myself. And then it's like, I was happy with the one. Why was I going for the other?
Well, I think you did it right. If we're going back, so like, that one didn't work out. But, how many other ones, have you done that, because you can't, unfortunately, it's just, we've always tried to, do the highest and best and just start from there. But, a lot of the time, a lot of the times we've lost a deal to people that do play those games.
Absolutely.
With everybody.
Absolutely. It happens.
No matter how much we try and tell them, like, hey, they're going to, it doesn't matter, because by the time they get to the closing table, they're not going to call us back. I think maybe once or twice that's happened, but
it is rare. They do.
That's why, and it's tough. There was one we just had a lead come in, and I know by myself, like, it's, if I don't talk to them from like the get go, from like the time that they call in, or like it's definitely way tougher to close it. Like, you got to have that rapport building the entire time, and I think Caitlin and I learned this on one recently, where it's like, if you take the call and you're the one that's like initially talking to them and doing everything, like, you got to see it through. I can jump in as like support, but if you have all the rapport and then I just jump in on the walkthrough and then I'm the one talking numbers all of a sudden, they're like, who's this guy?
Right. And some people do that. That's how they run their business. So. And I'm always amazed at that. It's like, no, you want to be that rapport builder. A lot of times I'm on the phone. Someone will bring me in on the phone to talk to somebody, and then we're together, do a lot of three-way. Yeah. That's not so bad. We were working on this one deal recently that was from a Driving for Dollars, and there's a title issue, multiple family members. Only 2 are untitled, but I guess there's really 3 of them, all elderly. And while I'm working on that, another member of the fire center that actually is an agent as well, the other side of the family, because I was talking to one family member, they were talking to the other, and they were okay with our offer, but not knowing that they were now talking to an agent that I know, that's, like I said, a member here, and she messaged me with my offer in her hand, going, "Hey, Evan, isn't this you?" And I was able to go to the sellers and go, "Hey, you're in good hands with her. My offer. What, you don't want my house? Well, I do, but you're in good hands with her. She'll get you more money because if you guys are listed." But the family still was just kind of battling each other. Yeah. And I finally got the word that I could go buy just their half interest at a pretty decent price. And I then call a buddy that had the money, say, "Hey, we're talking about buying half a house at a pretty good discount." and then I would then force the sale, or because I knew they wanted the other side of the family wanted to sell, but if we can get half at a discount, this could work out and be a longer deal. But can't overpay. Have to be careful there. And right as we're doing that, someone got this. Someone came out of nowhere with this money that's it's a fake offer. It's just so high. There's no way. And then they're like, well, they were going to get a lot more money now. But they wanted to be done with their family member. They were willing to take a pretty good hit. So I'm actually looking for more of those deals that might take longer, but some of the payoffs can be really good. Anyway, we're just trying to get out of a lot of these the number of deals we're doing, from doing a lot of just saying yes, yeah, that works, yes, instead of stop. Like, do I really want this? And so we're really cutting back on those. We get a couple of these things done, sell these 2 properties, these 2 rentals, plus the 2 flips. Problem is, these 2 rentals, I have to now, one I'll have to rehab.
Yeah.
At least a light. The other one just got rented. They're good. I could sell it as is. So, we're just trying to do that, get a little bit, just free up some time, and really, really make that our words and our actions meet up, because that's not as easy to do, especially if you're a little scattered like me.
Yeah, it's easy to get distracted. You know, it's even this one in an Arrowhead that I'm diving into. It's not. I just finished one in Twin Peaks, and I said, and it didn't turn out really how I had imagined. I was like, every time I step out of Crestline, something I don't see.
Right.
And then I went and tripled down on that and Lake Arrowhead. So I think it's solid. We're going to find out. I mean, it's, in the woods, Lakeview, level entry. It's got everything that pencils out. Should make sense.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Well, let me tell you one other thing that I struggle with this year, and this one on that Muscoi deal of ours, is that, and I know this, and we still screw up. It happens. Is that sometimes you do a deal that it works, everything looks good, and it's going to be there, but the dealing with a seller who dying of cancer, and so that one kind of more pulling at the heartstrings in the way it went. So it's like, are we fixing and flipping it, or are we keeping it as a rental? Yeah. Well, it's going to be this long flip, or a long flip turned into a rental. And I guess we're about to start the other part of that rehab, like this week or next week. So usually every property, we already know we're going to buy it to flip it, or buy it to keep it, or, hey, plan A is to keep it, plan B is to flip it, whichever. Usually already know that. And sometimes you're like, well, this can be either or, and then you don't want to make the decision, and then that costs you more. And guilty of it, happens. We're not perfect.
I think that's honestly probably the number one way that experienced investors and flippers, or buy and hold, whatever, can lose money, like on a project, and lose it quick, like lose a good chunk of is not knowing what you're doing with the property before you start the rehab, or trying to do 2 of them. Like, well, I'm going to just, I'll do it this way. And, I mean, you're either going to end up with, like for us, I mean, there's certain things, we want to do on a, we wouldn't do on a rental that we would do on a flip, and vice versa. And, I mean, like the one that I ended up becoming an Airbnb, I think we spent $10,000 redoing stuff, because we're like, oh, well, let's do this instead, after we'd already painted and done some things.
Right.
And, and even that, I think that is the number one way that, like, if you're going to flip it. Like, if you're going to hang on to it as a rental, hang on to his rental. Like, this is I was actually trying to explain this to my partner on this Lake Arrowhead one. And I was, cause I want to keep it, but to pay her half of like what we think we're going to make, it doesn't let it pencil. And I was trying to explain to her, like, because the rehab's going to be $150,000 to flip it to the ARV that it needs to be. But I could also redo this house for $60,000 and keep it as a rental, like, just with the like as and leave it as is, fix the, it's going to cost another $90,000 to get it to the ARV it needs to make so that we can have $100,000 in selling costs and still make money, but because if we just put 60 into it and sold it, it's never going to sell for, that type of ARV. And I was trying to explain it. She's like, well, let's just do the project and then whatever it's worth, we'll appraise it. And then whatever, if you want to keep it, I'm like, well, no, that definitely, it's not going to work that way. Like there's if we flip it to the ARV and then I try and keep it as a rental long term, I'm not going to get that rent back to cover the now $900,000 price instead of the $750, or $700 or whatever it would be. And so I was trying to explain that, and I don't think you really get it until you're. There was another couple members that they're doing started doing a flip out in the desert that they're now hanging on to, but that because they were flipping it, they've already fixed a bunch of stuff that they didn't really need to, if they were keeping it as a rental because they wouldn't have to worry about it. You know,
where they listen to John and all of a sudden they realize to shop and they're like, oh, we got to keep it. That happens. But
and I tried to tell them at the beginning, I was like, you can't do either or. Like, you can, but you're going to eat it somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it just means you have a nicer rental, right?
True.
In case
True.
But there are investors that I remember Bruce Norris talked about that they fix and flip their properties, or they fix up their properties, whether they want to sell or rent, they would still put it in the same countertops, et cetera. And that was years ago. But you said something. I think it was Aaron Mazzrillo that says this. If I'm wrong, forgive me. I'm pretty sure it's Aaron that says something. He doesn't believe you really still cash flow even with California real estate. What bails you out is the appreciation that just you've been around long enough. It just comes and it just keeps coming. So that as you get to the higher rents, does help. But as the appreciation keeps taking effect, and you can pull some of that money out and pay down some of your debt elsewhere to make those properties better, and then you flip a house and you help pay it down. You just get better quality properties and with debt pay down to get some really great cash flowing properties. Yeah. Looking at this like strategic thing versus let me buy it and keep it and I'm just going to cash flow. As we know, it's very difficult in California. But with that, he said that more than once. I'm pretty sure in him on that. So what he does is he fixes and flips a property and he takes a lot of cash and then he'll refinance that property and then he'll pay down instead of keep taking money out. And so he gets appreciation of the value of the house and he does a pay down on it. So this flipping is paying down. It's just improving his cash flow on his rentals, which is like, okay. And then after John coming out again,
we were saying the same thing.
Yeah. And then Ken too, even saying about pay things off. There's a point to, okay, no debt, less debt versus debt's okay. Well, it is in the right context, right amounts, not over leverage. So that's been a lesson this last year, been hearing from multiple sources. It's like, all right, to idiot proof the business, so to speak, pay down the appropriate debt. So that, again, that goes back to, do you just keep buying properties that cash flow or they cash flow a little bit, let the appreciation come up, and then sell off the worst ones to make the better ones better? Yeah, that's kind of the direction we're going. Like, not instead of just holding on to them all. It's like, let's do that. And then, we now have some time, a little money, go buy another couple properties. And then out of that, now look at it again a year or two down the road and go, well, which one's the worst one now? Yeah. Which one's too much time management? And so that you can free up some time. Yeah,
you're constantly like optimizing your portfolio, not just hoovering everything you can. And
right.
And just, when you're starting off, you're going to take what you can get. But as you're, optimizing things and moving forward, you don't have to, which is hard because at a certain point, like we said, when you're new, you like everyone's telling you, just hold on to it all,
Well, that's why you do fix and flip, and a wholesale's okay in the beginning. You got, some of the other guys are out there. They're like, no, you got to keep it all. You got to pay the bills. You got to eat, and you can have a little bit of lifestyle. And just you understand that flipping and wholesaling, you want to put that money towards your long-term assets, your cash flowing property. Don't have the stupid debt, And then if you do, pay it off as fast pay that off as fast as you can, or buy the asset that makes the payment. If you're talking that, buy the rental, couple rentals, you make $1,000 a month, and go buy your toy for $1,000 a month. Fine, whichever, but just that you're doing that with intention. And I know I kind of got the eye off the ball in that sense. Is you just get busy and you're like, why am I doing this? And that's what your mom and I are kind of doing. So now we're really focused on, all right, when am I saying yes? When am I saying no? Let's get rid of a couple things, improve that, so I can go back to play more, more time with the grandkids. We have grandkids coming on top of the grandkids we have. And I really want to be there and not be is busy. And it's okay. You don't need as much money as you think. And so we're just trying to be in a better position with the foundation of everything. And that's why we're just really looking at it that way. In the beginning, you just need to, if it makes sense and it pencils and you can make some money, and you definitely look at it. Later, you can be a little more discerning. Okay. Yeah. And, understand, again, doing a deal, making $30,000, great, you can do it. If you're buying a $3 million house to make $30,000, that's not the deal. Maybe you're wholesaling it. Okay. Yeah. So I understand that part of it. So, but that's really,
I read a new book recently. It was, I remember the author was Coach Carson, and it was, he was my coach, and it was the lean and, I'm going to forget it. It was like the lean and mighty real estate investor.
We just got that book. We haven't read it, but we just got it.
It echoes a lot of, he's a student of John Schaub also. And, and it was very well written. I haven't finished it yet. I'm about halfway through it. And, one of the big things that stood out to me was living while you're doing all this. And, because, I've taken Gary Johnson, and, Gary Johnson, one of the things, I remember it was one of Gary's quotes, or if it was somebody else that was in his manual, but it was, I'll live a few years like you won't, to live the rest of my life like you can't. And
I know that quote.
That's very, very powerful. And I've, there was years there that when we started doing all this that, I didn't really live much. We just worked, and, I didn't really go out much, if at all. It just focused on, there was probably about 3 years there where I just head down, and I don't, I felt like I wasted probably a lot of time in my 20s and had a great time. And, so when it was like buckling down time to get to work, but I really did live that, a few years, like most people wouldn't live like that, and just put my life on hold really for those few years to just get ahead of, or get back to where I was, because I did pretty well in my early 20s, but kind of screwed it up there for a little bit. But, but one of Carson's things in that book is making sure you're living also. Like that's a big, you're living your life, and that's a big part of not just focusing on, so, I mean, like everything, everybody's got their own opinions. You got to find the one that works for you. Some people are, me, I get hyper focused on things. It's better if I just,
But you know what, with that, it's okay to do that for say 2 or 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And to do the things, I'll do the things. The quote, I have it differently, is I'll do things today that you won't do, so that tomorrow I can do things you can't do. All right, because there are various versions, but that's really what it comes down to. And so if you do go work like crazy for a little bit and focus on what you're doing, and if you do that, so that you can have the payoff and the reward later, and that's okay. Versus just day in, day out, working like. Why am I doing this? So that 10 years goes by, 15 years goes by, and you never stop. The workaholic. That's really the problem there. And so Jeremy a while ago recommended the book "Die with Nothing," which I'm reading. I'm reading that one very slowly because I'm fine rereading sections. And again, about you're buying experiences, and that's kind of the idea. Is that if you can. What are you going to remember? That deal you did, or maybe a trip around Europe, that type of thing. And so in this case, he talks about, like two 20-year-olds, working like, oh, I got to work this summer, and the buddy says, well, I'm going to borrow money from like a loan shark so I can backpack through Europe. And he's like, you're crazy. He goes, yeah, but 20 years later, I don't remember much about that summer except I worked and it was hot. And he went and backpacked around Europe, went into debt, got out of it later. And look, this is his life experience that he got out of it.
Yeah.
So there's a time and a place to do each. And after a while, those of us that worked like crazy in 100-degree heat in a warehouse, damaging our hearing and dealing with chemicals that I have no idea really what they are, poisoning your body, right? For someone else to really do well. But you do it for your own life and try to eke out a life on it. And you do that and then you're like, why am I doing this? So later you go do things for your family, and you start making the same mistakes. My son that lives in Idaho, Christian, talks about something that he says that when he first bought a store and land and everything, I said, be careful you're not just buying yourself a job. And for a while it was. He's now as an employee, et cetera. But he had said for a while, Dad, you're right. It's like I have a job that I just can't get away from because he's ultimately responsible for it. But, again, duplicating and hiring people to replace you helps. But that's a balance that even us, someone that's fixing and flipping houses, if you're not doing it right, eventually it just becomes a job. And then if you wake up one day, 20 years later, you go, I never bought a rental. I never bought a business. I never bought this. And then next thing you know, you're like, I can't stop. I have a job.
Yep.
I might have a nice lifestyle.
Yeah. And we've called it, people refer to it the beast, of building the beast. And it's so easy to build one, and buy and hold, or in flipping and wholesaling and, even in AREA.
right.
But that's one of the things, Chad talks about in his books too. And I know he's not, that one, a lot of the ideas are, maybe his own or definitely his own, and then other people's and stuff,
right.
kind of, we
copy your way,
learn our from our mentors and hone our skills. But it's one of the, the beast is real. We talk about it at Firefast. We talk about it at, and that was, when this club and the fire center and everything like that was putting that financial independence thing first above real estate, is that, when this club existed in the past and we were coming here way before I ever owned it. And the Inland Empire Club, there was so little focus on the goal part of it. Like it was, and I think a lot of RIAs have that problem.
It's about deals, just doing deals.
Yeah, just about deals and doing the next deal, or like, let's do a deal, and while that is important, I mean, that's what's gonna get you there. That's not the end goal, at least for, everybody wants it or seems to want it, but I don't feel like it's talked about enough. So that's why we made that right. so prevalent in the name of the, of the center and everything of that is the goal. We're right. not usually when we're in here talking, we're not trying to teach people how to go build another job, for themselves. And right. It took us something that, like we started talking about earlier, it took us a while to learn that ourselves, right? Right. And really can,
because you can still enjoy it, but that's why, like, I'm not enjoying it as much.
Yeah, it's going to burn out eventually.
Yeah.
Even with with the club and with the fire center and everything. I mean, Caitlin and I sat down recently because we were, obviously this place is always going to take a certain amount of time, right. And
that's the giving back though too.
Yeah, of course, of course. But there was, as we get more members and as we do more events and as we do, there's going to be staff requirements and, right. and stuff like that, and
duplicating yourself.
Yeah, and I had to really sit Caitlin, because Caitlin, she's amazing. I love her. She wants to help. She really wants to, and she's been a massive help here, of just getting this place off the ground, but I had to sit down and tell her at one point, I was like, if you're doing, if you're doing almost too much, or I'm relying on you to do things like in my stead, it's, how are we? If you're the one that's like it's still me. You know what I mean? Like we're not going to be free.
You could go on vacation.
Yeah, what am I
come
going to
back
exactly?
in 3 weeks
That's
and
what I
she
said to
can
her.
go.
She was like, and I think until I said that was like if you're doing, if you're me when I'm not here, like how are we ever going to go take a vacation? Because if we do, you can't leave.
Right.
I'll go. I'll go to Mexico or whatever. And she was like, so, and we finally had to say like, okay, look, like, like we're gonna direct and have other people, take those roles. Like you're here as a support role, not as a primary.
Right.
So.
Well, I think I told you this. I was at a mastermind luncheon that you know about, and talking to a couple of guys, and I mentioned about financial independence or real estate, and it's talked about how the other RIAs do not necessarily not knock anyone, but if it's not they're not intentionally focused on the end goal of that. It's like to do deals and make money, et cetera. But what if you did a deal that you're really excited about, but it gets you further away from your goal, right? It's like, hey, let's we're going to New York. We have 2 weeks to get there, and we want to drive. We're going to go that way, but we start heading to Thailand to go that way. It's like, wait a second, we only have 2 weeks and we want to see all this stuff. Yeah, but we got this time. It's like, well, maybe that should be down the road. Yeah. It's like, well, then let's change the deal. Maybe we need to look at that or put that later. It just changes the dynamics. Now, it could be a bad example, but again, if you're trying to go here, is this going to speed you up or slow you down? And so you've got to decide on that what you're doing. So when I was talking to some of the guys I was talking about doing something with intention, it's like in the art of intentional living versus how did I get here? I don't know. I just kept working and I got here. Versus no, I'm buying this and I'm doing this because I'm trying to go here. And you're going to get a lot farther by being more focused. And I know it's happened to me where I'm about to get real busy, and then you're like on that hamster wheel almost, and you're like, where am I at?
I just have to get through next week.
Right.
And then you get through next week, and you're like, okay, I just have to get through the next week.
Right. And even I said earlier, I only have to get through the next month or two, get rid of these, and it happens.
You got to block everything else out, or be very conscious of what you're letting back in over the next. Yeah, because I count myself, I just like with this, I just needed to get through, John's class, and then that'd be good. And then we took a 3-week vacation and then came back. I just need to get through Pete's class, or just get through tribe building, or and then I could focus on whatever else. And then, but it's like it never stops coming.
Right.
There's always like the next thing, and that's
with that.
It's
no, I know. There's a book. I think it's Family Success Principles. I think it's the Woolwins that had written that. They're the ones with the young kids. The 15-year-old owned 40 houses or whatever. But they talk about the Family Success Principle or triangle, and it's your words, thoughts, and actions all have to be congruent. They all have to be together. Everything focused that way. And if you're out of sync, you're going to have trouble. And that's something that I started rereading that a while ago. I actually want to go back to that. Is though if you constantly say, I want to do this, but your actions are constantly the opposite, then what are you doing? It's like dragging an anchor as you're trying to sail this way. So one of the things with that, I always thought, and I really think it was awesome what you did with the Fire Center, is the fact that you are looking at it to what is your goal? What does someone, when they come here, what they want to do? What's their goal? What's their income goal? What are they trying to do so that they have a direction of what to aim for? Like, I like a lot of cash flow. Okay, I want that. I want the monthly cash flow, the passive. Well, maybe it is notes, and maybe that is rental property, and maybe it is owning a business. Versus, I like piles of cash, but I want to buy rentals. And you're like, wait a second, those can go, but you want if you want to make $50,000 per deal, buying a rental house in Ohio may not do that. If you're going to buy and hold it, where's the fit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I talked about it, and they had agreed, they're like, you're right. A lot of the RIAs forget that. They get caught up in putting people together and networking and maybe doing deals, and people can do real well. But then why are we doing this again? What direction are we going? So that's something there that I think is needed. And I think that most of us leave school, whether it was high school or college, and it's like, oh, I got to go get this career, got to go get this life. And they get into a financial jam and they just talk to their friends or family. They don't have a team or financial allies or financial friends to go to. They really do have their best interests in heart. They think their brother-in-law does, and they may not. Maybe he loves them, but it's like, oh, yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to risk your family's future by going to start that real estate business, right? Don't flip a house. You know, we were told in 2009, right as we got the second, when we got the pay cut and everything else, we were told by someone that meant well, that told us, hey, well, you're going to back out of that escrow on a duplex, right? We were in escrow and duplex, and which we still own today. It's been our best #1 deal that we've ever done. And we were making about $1,000 a month profit from that then, just about, and more than that today. And she had said, you guys got to cancel that. You just got a pay cut. You don't want to take the risk of buying a duplex for $65,000 that literally was renting for over $2,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have bought that because she had our best interests at heart. She did care about it. But that was the absolute wrong advice.
Yeah. Well,
because
the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right. So understanding that having that you want to make sure that you have a good team on your side to help direct you to what are you trying to do, where you're trying to go.
And I think the good thing too is having that team of different people, different experiences, and because it really does make a difference for every single person. I know that sounds a little cliche, but I could think, we get people in here that are brand new, that have only been in the workforce maybe a couple years, and they just already know, like, I don't want this life, and then other people that are stable and great jobs. And there's one person that one member that's been part of Firefast and some of the other courses. He's a teacher. He's a teacher. He's great salary. He loves what he does.
Yep.
But he's getting into real estate. And he's on his, now he's done, I think since he took Firefast at the beginning of the year, he's on like I want to say he's like third or fourth property now. But it was very different for him. He had low bills. He already had, some of the the principal, the groundwork to start from.
Okay.
Other people have very little to start, so their start might look very different from his.
Right.
Right. And but the goal is still the same. The goal is that neither one of them want to work or have to work, full time, at least at a job, eventually. So unless they want to, which is totally fine too. We talked about,
which changes your attitude a lot at your job. When you could walk away now, then it's like
a lot of shit from everybody.
You might enjoy it more. Yeah, it's true. I've met many people that did not like their job or didn't care for it, but once they realized they could walk out the door anytime, they loved their job. They realized how much they enjoyed it because they could just quit today. Yeah. And that was such a free feeling that changed their whole attitude, which goes back to a lot of everything that's up here.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely. So, let's see how much time we got. Oh, we're a good ways over. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up here. Evan, if people want to, either reach out to you or contact you to do a deal or, get some advice, or maybe they liked something you said today, how would they go about getting a hold of you?
You could find me at evan@sellthyhouse.com. That's my email address, or on Instagram, Sirkesh Deals. You can find us there. I love working with people. I love really helping anything with title issues or, like I said, probates where we got to get attorneys involved and stuff like that. I'm really enjoying that and coming and helping people doing that. So you can find me there, or you can find me here at the Firefast. I'm here usually every Wednesday night.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate having you being on the show today. Thank you very much. Again, this has been the Fire Chat Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Rich Rice. You can check us out on firechatpodcast.com to watch to see all the episodes on there, or get on the show. I'd love to have you in. And if you want to follow me, my personal Instagram is @FireRichRice. We meet here at the Fire Center. As you can tell, we have a theme going on. We meet here at the Fire Center every single Wednesday at the moment, but we are adding a few more groups coming here soon on different days of the week as well. So check out firecenterhq.com. Again, that's firecenterhq.com or at firecenterhq on pretty much everything. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Have a good day.